Good evening. Any questions?
Yesterday, you spoke about attachment, and particularly toward material things. What about loving your children? Would that love be some kind of attachment, or is it real love?
Real love, very difficult. It's mixed with attachment, but much better than the love you have with your wife or husband. Love with your children, it looks like slightly purer, but still, of course, attachment. Because the reason that you love so much to that child or to that husband, to that wife or to your relatives is because at the end of the day, if you are asked why you love your parent, children so much, then you will say, this is my children, my husband, my thing. Because they are you almost consider them like a possession, my child. Anything that belongs to is important, right? A clear indication is normally, for example, if the husband and wife or with the grown-up children, you have very close relationship, and you might even go to the extent of saying that I love my children so much that I can die for them, right? But the moment there is a disagreement with your relatives or your children and so forth, and particularly if there is a big fight and argument, then you will always say, I am right, you are wrong, my dear children. You are wrong, my dear husband. You are wrong, my dear wife. So at the end of the day, the one that you will really very strongly defend is yourself, not your relatives, not your children, not your wife. Because you are the most important thing. I'm not saying this is true with everybody, but generally speaking, it's like that. So there is this possessiveness, this attachment. There is a beautiful verse in Madhyamika Avadara. Thangbo ngashe dala shenjurching. Dagin dishingola chachebe. Sujun chenda rama meba yen dola nyingje churkan tela. Meaning that we end up cycling in this samsara because of this conception to myself, grasping to myself. Then grasping to mine or what belongs to you, my husband, my wife, even my jacket and things like that. And because of this grasping and clinging and obsession to you and what belongs to you, you get entrapped in the samsara, just like rings of bucket in a well. Right? This is what is said in Madhyamika Avatara by Chandrakirti. Like rings of bucket in a well. If you look at the rings of bucket in a well, the rings of bucket, turn around, bringing water, and while bringing water, and when it is pulled up, the buckets hit against the wall. So most of the buckets are like broken, rusted, So in the samsara, we have this kind of problem, you see, this kind of problem, right? So this is a very important question, because ordinarily it is very difficult for us to love somebody without attachment, right? Once I was giving a public talk in Moscow, 2 years back I was giving a public talk in Moscow. So I was talking about, topics something like we are discussing right now. Then there was a young Russian man. He asked me this very pertinent question by saying that if everything is impermanent, doesn't have independent existence, then how can I love my girlfriend? He asked me this question. He's asking this question because normally when we love somebody, we tend to think, this is the object that I love, and this object is 100% beautiful. And you even start thinking that this object which I like will be there forever. If I ask you the question, of course you will say, no. But that's not how you think by your unquestioning mind in your regular life, right? So therefore he was asking me, if things are impermanent, doesn't have independent, inherent existence, how can I love my girlfriend? Then I answered by saying, if you are able to see clearly the impermanent, transient nature of your girlfriend, lack of inherent existence of your girlfriend, you will actually love your girlfriend much more than before. Much more than before. This is the interesting paradox, you see. Because if your brother, sister, girlfriend, whoever, once you realize they are impermanent, they will be gone anytime, they will die anytime, right? So once you have developed this understanding, then that gives the implication, now is the time to look after each other. Because tomorrow they may not be there. Now is the time to live harmoniously, to help each other. Makes perfect sense. Contrarily, if your girlfriend or brother or sister, they exist permanently from their own side, no change, then there's no hurry. You can love them anytime. That's not the case, you see. That's not the case. So now is the time to be good, to be nice towards each other. Something like that. Okay. So let us read. Wherever the source of peace is seen, there strive forever. Whichever you have begun, accomplish just that first. By doing so, all will be well accomplished, or else both will not be achieved. Yes, okay. Did you find where I'm reading? Did you find? Page number 3. Yeah, page number 3. Wherever the source of peace is seen. Wherever the source of peace is seen. Yes, one. Wherever the source of peace is seen, there strive forever. Meaning, whether it's a place or a people, if it is a friendly, peaceful atmosphere, there strive forever means try to stay there. Try to stay there. If it is a happy, harmonious, friendly place, cherish that. Cherish that. Because it is difficult to find a place which is suitable. Next one. There are many more verses, so we'll read all these verses. Wherever the source of peace is seen, there strive forever. Rob Sakosunga, whichever you have begun, accomplish just that first. Meaning that don't start everything. Don't start too many projects. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, not completing anything. Don't do that. Don't do that. Start one thing, think carefully, and whichever you have begun, accomplish just that first. Otherwise, throughout your life, you will start many things, never accomplish anything. Even in today's management course, this is highly, highly encouraged. Because if you start one thing and finish it, that will energize you. Go for a few days, holiday. You finish something, you feel energized and you get extra energy to start another one. And if you don't do that, with ambition, with the desire to get more money, if you say yes to everybody, start this, not being able to finish anything, that will really, really make you stressed. So don't try to do too many things. Do something which is meaningful. By doing so, all will be well accomplished. By doing so, all will be well accomplished. Means you start something, finish it, they'll give you more experience, more energy. Do the next, you will finish it. Through that way, you will get recognition, you will get money, you will get name and fame, whatever you want to get, you will get it. In this way, you will be able to do many things together. Or else both will not be achieved. You start here something, another there, you will not achieve anything. I personally have that experience, As a translator, occasionally I feel like translating something, start one text. I'm pretty good in translating, so I translate. Roughly do the rough translation, that much I do. Then after that I start thinking, okay, now I have done the rough translation, I should edit it and make sure it is more or less a reliable translation. That part I don't do. Then I see another, oh, this is so interesting, I start that, do the rough translation. I have so many texts which I did rough translation and never edited it. So that means it's not going out into the market, it's not going out to benefit other people, you see. So now I have just started, proofreading and finishing those other things that I have translated. So based on my own experience. Next lines. Due to constant misdeeds and lack of joy, when a puffed up mind arises, then arrogance should be reduced. And recall the instruction of the Lama. When the mind of discouragement arises, upraise the spirit of the mind. Recall wisdom perfection. Meditate both in the state of emptiness. So that means due to constant misdeed. For example, if you continue to do something wrong out of addiction, that ring the chena kiyamar sanyi ne maje go slab. Ya sanyi lebde that ring thama inda. Right? And in this way, if you continue to do the same wrong thing again and again, and whatever you do, if there is no joy, and particularly when your mind gets puffed up, inflated, whatever be the reason, mind arises, then arrogance should be, then at that time you should know that now your mind is getting puffed up, you are getting arrogant, and try to reduce it. Actually, we discussed a little bit about arrogance yesterday also, but there may be a little bit more in the description also, but I'm just trying to explain it based on the lines itself. And recall the instruction of the Lama. Instruction of the Lama means the Lama never says get puffed up. In fact, the reason, when we come for the teaching and just before the teaching starts, I did the prostration and I also asked you, please do the prostration. The reason to do that prostration, chak selva, chak selva means you bow down, is to develop this sense of humility, that you are bowing down to somebody that has higher quality. So that is this chakse, paying homage, bowing down is antidote, counterforce against arrogance. Mi tokto sawachi da tawa thumbo jena mi kanju muju gogurgu marwa. So the fact that you are bowing down to somebody shows that you have this wish to receive higher qualities. Right? When the mind of discouraged, so what he's saying is sometimes you get puffed up, which is very bad, not good. And sometimes you go to the other extreme, you get completely discouraged by saying, oh, my Tibetan is not good, oh, I don't have a good teacher, oh, I don't have a time, whatever be the lame excuses. You have 100,000 lame excuses. Right? So with those kind of excuses, if you discourage yourself, then it's not good. Then in that case, you should upraise the spirit of the mind by thinking all the positive things that you have. And that is one process of meditation. When you do the meditation, you choose one object, like the image of the Buddha, and try to make your mind just focus on that object, the image of the Buddha, nothing else. Now when you try to do that, two things happen. One, as soon as you try to make your mind meditate on the image of the Buddha, the mind will not stay there for a long time. Immediately the mind will get distracted and suddenly think about the picnic that you had last week or the friend that you met 2 months before, whatever. You have so many experiences. So you are sitting there physically looking like meditation, but your mind is picnicking. Football, or maybe shopping in New York, whatever. That takes place. And then you are not aware of all that. Your mind is not meditating, it is getting extracted. Very, very excited, distracted, excited. So if that happens, then what you need to do is you tell the mind, stupid mind, don't get too excited, you are still in samsara. Still you are suffering, still you have problems, So come down. You think about something that will have a dampening spirit on the mind. Bring the spirit of the mind down and let the mind focus on the object. Now when you again try to let your mind focus on the object, then the other side of the pendulum starts happening. That is, now you started to stop that excitement, the monkey mind going around, you brought down, asking you to focus on the object. Then what happens is the mind stays there for a little bit time, and then the object gradually disappears, and you start sinking. The mind starts sinking, and after some time, dozing off. Half sleeping. And you feel very happy, you feel relaxed, especially if you had walked the whole day now, you feel relaxed, and then under the impression that I'm doing meditation. And that's why today many people, they work like a donkey in the day, very hard. Then at the end of the day, they go to a Dharma center, and in the name of meditation, they start their sleeping. Then after that, they say, wow, the meditation was so relaxing. It was not meditation. It was relaxing because you are sleeping. You have been working the whole day. You are tired, you see. So that's not meditation. So it is important when you choose an object and make your mind stay on it, make sure two qualities are there. Clarity, stability. Clarity means the object must be very clear. Okay? And the stability means the mind must stably stay on the object. So when the mind is sinking, when the mind is becoming dull, then think about something that will upraise the spirit of your mind. That's what he is saying here. Upraise the spirit of the mind. Exactly the word he has used. Upraise the spirit of the mind. So this is how you do in your meditation, also in your daily life. Sometimes you get discouraged, whatever be the reason, sometimes because of the weather. Weather also, your mind becomes dull. Sometimes food that makes your mind dull. Sometimes the meeting that you had with somebody, the nasty person that you met, because of that your mind gets discouraged. Then don't just focus on that. Think about something that will cheer up your mind. Cheer up your mind. For example, when your mind is becoming dull and sleepy, then don't force yourself. Just get up, go for 5 minutes walk, sprinkle water on your face, wash your face, and think about something that will cheer up your mind, thinking that I'm so lucky, I'm not a donkey, not a cow, I'm a human being, all my hands and legs are intact, how wonderful. I'm sitting very close to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So many things, good things that you can think about. So cheer up your mind. That's important, right? And sometimes the stupid mind gets too excited, without much reason. Because you got a little bit promotion, or because you got a little bit extra money, whatever, you get so excited, you start, getting inflated. Like the balloon, if you put too much air, it will burst. So therefore in life, not only in meditation, in life what is important is, if you hear good news today, then yes, it is good news, but don't get excited, too excited. Bad news is waiting. If you hear bad news today, yes, it's bad news, you feel a little bit sad, but no need to feel too sad, because good news is waiting. So things change, there's nothing permanent, nothing. Even the worst period of the life or day consists of hours and minutes, Hours go by, minutes go by. Sometimes we are not very happy in the day, then in the night we sleep, next day you come up with like a new person, you see. So things change, there's nothing that doesn't change. And how you fare well with this kind of ups and downs in life is your mental attitude, So therefore don't develop too much grasping to anything. Recall wisdom perfection, that means develop that wisdom which is able to see the reality. Like for example, if you look out from the window, if you see a beautiful rainbow, you feel excited, you clap your hands, wow, beautiful rainbow. But if you try to go and catch the rainbow and get obsessed with it and try to catch the rainbow, will you be able to do that? You will not be able to do that. Similarly, the people, the things that we relate to in the true sense of the term is like a rainbow. There's no essence. With you, with others, there's not much essence there. things exist. Yes, things exist, but they don't exist as we think. How we normally think. With our unquestioning mind, how we think. We think things will stay forever. I will enjoy forever. My friends will be there forever. You see? Then unfortunately when somebody suddenly dies, you get completely shocked as if something impossible has become possible. That's not the case. You should be ready with all those changes. So therefore, the key question today, or even otherwise, is finding happiness in a changing world. Mark these words. Finding happiness in an uncertain world, which means impermanent world. And this thing called impermanent and uncertain thing is not something the Buddha made. It's the way things are. So the question is, when everything is changing momentarily, not only day by day, hour by hour, but momentarily everything is changing. So how would you find happiness? That's the question. And at the end of that, you're also going to die. So how would you be able to enjoy life? So it's wrong to think that I will enjoy my life, I will be happy only if the life, if there's no death. As long as there is death, I cannot enjoy. That is wrong, completely wrong. Because the key point is that you be happy today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Today is cash. Tomorrow is post-dated check. Right? Hindi में बोलता है ना, कल किसी ने देखा. So why you are worrying about something about which you have no idea? And even about the past also, you can learn a little bit experience from the past, but past is gone, it's like a dream. So why you get too much obsessed with the dream? If you had some beautiful dreams last night, and then for the rest of the life, if you keep on saying, oh, at particular time I had such a dream, and then you get obsessed with this dream, people will laugh at you. So the life that has gone is like a dream, really like a dream. So focus, be happy right now. That is what he's saying. Then of course we should aim to get the long-lasting happiness. Meditate both in the state of emptiness. So at the end of the day, whether it's a big achievement or it is a big loss, at the end of the day they are all in the nature of emptiness, meaning none of this has independent existence. Now this, of course, when we talk about emptiness, is very subtle, very subtle. Emptiness is equal to zero in mathematics. Zero doesn't mean it has no value. If you say, I have zero money, you have no money, right? But in mathematical calculation, it is because of the zero. And actually, there's a long story about zero. People had difficulty accepting this concept called zero. For 400 years, they did not accept. No, zero, don't use zero, don't use zero. There's a long story, very interesting story about zero, right? So anyway, after 400 years of discussion, they accepted the concept of zero, and that zero became the foundation of all the higher mathematical calculations. So similarly, this concept of shunyata or emptiness is the foundation of the Buddhist philosophical, any other philosophical, especially Buddhist philosophical tradition. So both these two great concepts, the mathematical concept of zero and the philosophical concept of emptiness, originated in India. So there are a lot of similarities. As far as I know, there's a lot of similarities between the two. And therefore Nagarjuna said, to whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible. To whom emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. Right? So therefore emptiness is not equal to nothingness. We are not saying things do not exist. We are saying things exist. We are not crazy. Buddha is not crazy. He is saying, you are there. I know you are there. I know I am here. I know you have feelings. I know I have also feelings. So on that conventional level, things exist. But what he is saying is things exist, but they don't exist as you perceive, as you think. Now how do you think? Or how do we think? We think things not only exist, but they exist independently. This becomes so clear, for example, in terms of your relation with your enemy. You will not see enemy as just existing, but you will see enemy, 100% horrible. Magasaji yona. Tengi konyam the karke share. Chichinare, Yamachi Yusho, Pet Mitili do a setting yoma. Something like that, completely incorrigible, completely 100% negative, which is not true. Then to the other side, your friends, relatives, you don't only think they are good, but you think they are absolutely wonderful, 100% wonderful. Rangun to be yago, rangun to be duksha, some lokorgdua. But there's nothing like that. Everything exists in terms of, many causes and conditions together. So that you need to understand. That is what he's saying. So things exist, things do not exist independently. Now what I'm saying is philosophically it is like this. Things exist, right? When things exist, there are only two ways of existence. Only two possibilities. If things exist, they should exist either dependently or independently. Dependent existence, independent existence are mutually exclusive. It has to be just one of them, cannot be both. Dependent existence, independent existence are mutually exclusive. There is no third possibility. So now we have to decide, based on our experience, which one seems to be true, existing dependently or independently. Dependently or independently? Exactly, dependently. So therefore things don't have independent existence. So emptiness means having no independent existence. Empty of independent existence. Is that clear? Oh, this is what. So its emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Okay. Meditate both in the state of emptiness. And then in this connection, Ramdamba asks a question. For example, as ordinary human beings, we get sickness and we encounter misfortunes. And when you get sick, when you encounter some obstructions and misfortunes, it's very difficult for us to tolerate this. How should we do with this? Ramdamba, of course, he doesn't. I don't think he's that problem, but he's asking this question on our behalf. So when he asked this question, then Atisha answered this by saying, "Rom chisir, tille same giveshini me, net digdevji chaking chembuji yin. Rom, what are you saying? This sickness, misfortunes, they are the best of all the teachers. They are best of all the teachers. The so-called illness, sickness, they are really like a broom that sweeps the dust, unwanted dust, clean. That's why in Buddhism we say suffering is introduction to happiness. Normally, of course, we prefer that I'm healthy, I'm not sick. But occasionally we do get sick. So at that time, what is important is to use that experience of getting sick while you take needed medical treatment, so forth. But mentally, you should learn from that. It's only when you get sick, then you start thinking, how nice if I'm not sick. Then I can do this, do that. I can read that book. Some good hine, nadu, managala teblo maraya. Nasuna hine ngana mena chichi ni che do say some local good. So suffering is introduction to happiness. Suffering basically means challenges. It's by facing challenges that we learn. If you run away from challenges, there's no opportunity to get new experiences, right? So suffering, if you don't like the word, and in fact, this word suffering, for us, ordinary people, we talk about suffering, things like that. But some of the great teachers, they make fun of this word suffering. They say, suffering? Dunge sana kare. Suffering, what is this thing called suffering? They're making fun of it, meaning that the so-called the so-called suffering that you are talking about is your attitude of seeing things. If your attitude is correct, if you have positive mental outlook, then whatever is there is good. It's a learning experience. If it's raining, it's pouring, oh wonderful, it should be like that. This is rainy season, It's really good. So not only here, down in the plain, they are also going to get some water. You feel happy about that if you have the right mental attitude. If you have the wrong mental attitude, then you start cursing the rain. Damn this rain, non-stop rain. What is happening here? The same situation, same event, one person enjoys it, another person feels sad. So there's the point. Oh yeah. And then about the arrogance and puffed up mental attitude that we spoke earlier, he says, it's not enough that you have obtained this precious human life. It is fragile, it's perishable, it's impermanent. There's no reason that you get so puffed up. It can be gone anytime. You might get sick anytime. Arwa, mi pe doctor so hiu the nasa dugja nan emene jurgudo hine. En laso sega jene nyum jung chagdo. Mana par de yamar doctor hiu ji na yemegi hi yemegi badaw chen dugdo. Right. Ordinarily, when you don't think about that, then you live your life in such a way as if you are not going to get sick, as if you are not going to die. You become very proud, and become a bully, And when you have this experience of suffering and so forth, then you really mellow down. You measure. Right? And then he also gives a little bit of warning, unless you be very careful, the so-called your practice also become distorted. For example, even if you are, let's say, meditating on kindness and compassion, it is possible you at the same time get discouraged. And even when you meditate on joy, it is possible to develop excitement, which is an obstruction to meditation, as I explained earlier. We are talking about meditation on the 4 immeasurable qualities. So there also, unless you be careful, it is possible that you fall into some of these traps. Like, for example, if you are meditating on loving kindness, compassion, you might fall into the trap of discouragement. If you meditate on joy, it is possible to fall into the trap of excitement. If you are meditating on equanimity, you might fall into the trap of ignorance or ignorance. So therefore, don't just meditate on one, meditate on all of the 4 immeasurable qualities. They are Buddha. Oh yeah. So this is basically he's saying that you should find the root cause of suffering and eliminate mental sinking and mental excitement. Then in the next lines he says, where the objects of attachment and hatred appears, see them as illusions and emanations. When unpleasant words are heard, see them as an echo. When harms arise to the body, see it as a result of your past actions. Maintain a positive attitude in any particular place, in association with any people. If attachment and hatred appears, then see those objects, from where attachment and hatred arises, as we already discussed with the concept of emptiness. See those objects of hatred and love as an emanation, And then somebody says unpleasant words, see them as an echo. Or see it as something, that you've recorded in your tape recorder. Tape recorder nal chu chirgin reda, mi dukja reda, tape recorder nal lu, ndi tan suzu konda lung lang marwa. Tape recorder paango di lavne tape recorder chi hiu marwa. O di na shi che gore, esi gore ta. Di na shi che gore, di jumze hiu dua. Rama. When harms arise to the body, instead of complaining that person who has harmed you, and see that as a result of your past action. And harms do come not only from human beings, but also comes from weather, comes from external situations and events. Like even if you are walking carelessly, moving your hand, and if your hand hits on a thorn, then blood oozing out, will you go and hit the thorn? Because the thorn has harmed you. You will not do it because the only reason you will say is because although I got harmed by the thorn, but thorn did not do it intentionally. The thorn has no motivation. Dilap grace, dilap grace. Now in that case, Shantideva says, when somebody harms you, also don't get angry to that person, but the source of that anger in that person, the source of that harm that come from that person is anger, negative emotions. So you go to the root. So you neither go to the root, the negative emotion, nor go to the stick which directly hit you. Why you are catching the person in between? Dilab. And some of the texts they say, in that case, dogs are more honest than human beings. Because if you throw a stone to the dog will first run to the stone and then gradually come to the person who threw the stone. So why you are catching things in between? And then of course that person also has many reasons why he is upset, why he is harming. So in many cases that person is, helpless. I mean, in short, all these stupid things that people end up doing in this world is out of madness, out of ignorance. Like for example, your mother, if your mother who has been very, very kind and loving to you, if your mother today is insane, and because of this she does all the nasty things, bad things to you, and she also walks towards the cliff and about to jump from the cliff, does all those kind of funny things, what would you do? If you're a good son or a good daughter, you would take care of that mother much more than before, because you now know that when she was sane, when her mind was fully functioning, there is not much need for me to look after her. She can look after herself. Now because of this madness, this insanity, she cannot look after herself, therefore I have to take care. So similarly, all these bad things happening in the society is because of insanity. So therefore there is reason to show more love and more compassion when people do bad things, rather than get angry and develop hatred and things like that. It makes big sense. Because when you are under the compulsion of negative emotions, not only people harm others, they even harm themselves, they even commit suicide. Live well in remote and isolated places, like the dead body of a wild animal. One should hide oneself and live without attachment. If you want to become a really good practitioner, then try to live in remote, isolated places. As Shantideva and many great teachers encourage by saying that if you live in isolated, remote places, you will hear the singing, the chirping, the singing of the birds. None of these birds and monkeys, they will say anything bad about you. None of these animals will backbite you or say anything bad about you. And you are in touch with the nature, and you are completely free. Nobody disturbs you in that sense, as is done by human beings. And the purpose of remaining in that isolated place is not to just run away from responsibilities, but to go within yourself, explore your emotions, remove and lessen the negative emotions, and strengthen the positive emotions. That is the reason. That's the reason. So that's why sometimes His Holiness also says that when you do the retreat, just reciting mantra is not good enough. Mantra recitation you can do if you are really tired of reflecting and thinking. The most important part is reflecting, thinking, and changing your mind from the negative to the positive. live well in remote and isolated place, like the dead body of a wild animal. If you are dead, doesn't matter whatever people want to do with your dead body, something like that. So therefore many teachers, they say, in ordinary life in the society, even though you have both eyes intact, many a times it is important to live as if you are blind. Although both of your ears intact, but many times it is important to remain as if your ears are deaf. There are many things that you should not hear or pretend that you didn't hear. When we don't have complete control over ourselves, and then on top of that we see so many things, hear so many things, and we run after the gossip, and then unnecessarily make unhappy. You take sides, sarva chokto chikache, joyeni yamar darwa. Susurango mateme mi chudo chikache, par kyo, chu kyo, ne chigre, nire love, solung par, tanda meba nangle dina solung par. No use at all. That's why his holiness is so wise. These Buddhist teachings are so wise. This is like, for example, our dealing with the Chinese leaders. Say nice things to them. Talk about negotiation. Talk about dialogue. Talk about non-violence. Talk about compassion. That's all what His Holiness is doing. And he discourages Tibetans saying bad things, using harsh words against the Chinese leaders. The reason is, now for example here in this gathering, if I mobilize you and start saying all the bad things they are doing, and then suddenly we all get angry and bang the table, the Chinese leader may not even know we are existing here. They are sipping nice cup of tea, watching a movie, whatever, Here we are out of our own negative emotion, we are suffering. Kungtolang del murjo susu dunger chasunga de. Contrarily, look at His Holiness' strategy. Not a political strategy, but a kind of strategy that comes naturally based on his Buddhist practice. For example, he occasionally said, yes, I hear many bad news from Tibet and elsewhere. So what I do is I try my best to solve that problem, and after having made all the possible effort, if nothing is possible, nothing can be done, then I don't pay too much attention. I sleep peacefully. So therefore my blood pressure is low. One of the doctors said my blood pressure is like a baby's blood pressure. That was a long time ago. Anyway, so he said, so that makes actually the enemy upset. Despite our having done all the bad things to this Dalai Lama still is very popular, he is very healthy. What should we do, So that's why occasionally they announce in the newspaper saying, oh, now the Dalai Lama is sick, he is hospitalized, he is suffering from cancer. So therefore the most important thing is cultivating these positive emotions. So you are healthy, you are wealthy, you are educated, and that is the most important counterforce, towards all the wrong things that will happen in your life or wrong things done by other people. One should hide oneself and live without attachment. And this body, sooner or later, we have to discard this body. This body is like a boat, and use this boat to cross the ocean of suffering. Having crossed the ocean of suffering, then we are not going to take this body with us, sooner or later. So there's not much reason to unnecessarily develop attachment. But that does not mean to say this human life is not precious. It's precious only if you use it for the right purpose. Otherwise, not much use. Okay, what that is it? We have not much time, there's so many things to say. So in short, he says, in terms of this virtuous practices, nobody will do it for you, you have to do it. Okay? Always be firm with your commitment, and when laziness and attachment to sensual pleasures arise, then rebuke and scold yourself and call the essence of ethical conduct. So briefly I explained this also. Always be firm with your commitment. Right? Nyere sejam Mr. Sundusam sejawadi. For one day, you are so excited, you forget even your food. So this Buddhism is so good, wonderful. You make a lot of effort for 1 or 2 days. After that, you completely forget your practice. Nyere sejam Mr. Sundusam lamathane kebe komand. As soon as you study, you wish to become a learned person. Hyasum learns the Jime English. After 3 days, there is no trace of your practice. It's all taken by the thief, distraction. Such person will get nothing. So you make effort like the running stream. You know, the stream will run day and night. It will not say that it's day, now I will run. It's night, now I'm not going to run, I will take rest. It will never say like that. Similarly, our effort should also be continuous. Right? Oh yeah. Anything, one very important thing here he says is, for example, a question is asked by saying that at the end when you are going to die, how should you die? How should you die? In other words, how should you face the death? He says you should die like the animals die. Atisha answers this by saying you should die just like the animals die. You know, human beings are so worried about the death. Animals, I don't know whether they are worried or not, but they're very convenient, death. So he says, die like an animal. And then he says, what is their process of death? What is their process of death of animals? He again asks this question. And then he says, the animals, they hide their dead body by themselves, something like that, you see. Right? And then says, who will, after you are gone, then who will do this purification practices of burning your bones and things like that. He says, this should be done by the morality that you have practiced. Sutum yabosungana sikjang di chigres. Tika semolam yabne jig chede hyu pheng yamar sigwa. Sutum sungleji. So the first process of burning your body or purification is morality. Second is having no attachment to your body. Third is, if you have undertaken some practice and achieved a little bit of a secure spiritual level, height. And fourth is protecting the samsara. That means probably protecting the people who are suffering in the samsara. Oh, sorry, no. This is, I think, wrong typing. Korwa kyoba in samare. Korwa kyoba, I don't know. Probably protecting the people in the samsara, something like that. And the fifth is that you should have realization in terms of having removed the negative emotions, in terms of having cultivated the positive emotions. So therefore, the good things must be practiced by you. Oh yeah. Always be firm with your commitment, and when laziness and attachment to sensual pleasures arise, so that was actually what I was reciting, then rebuke and scold yourself. Firm with your commitment. Don't make a commitment easily. If you make a commitment, make sure that you are able to observe it. That in terms of taking commitment, you are very good. You are very brave. I took commitment of taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I took commitment of Bodhisattva. I took commitment of tantric vows. I took commitment of monastic vows. But then you are not able to observe any of them. And this happens because of carelessness, laziness, attachment to sensual pleasures. That is over it, sensual pleasures. So we discussed a little bit about that yesterday. And then when you see that, then you should rebuke yourself by saying that I am supposed to be a practitioner. How come I am able to do this? I am supposed to possess this precious human life. How come I am misusing this human life? Things like that. Scold yourself. And recall the essence of ethical conduct. The essence of ethical conduct. Ethical conduct basically means having a good understanding of law of causality. If you do good, have good. If you do bad, have bad. That kind of understanding. If possible, subtle understanding of functions of law of karma must be there. If you see others with calm and straightforwardness, speak honestly, give up grimace and scowl, and forever live with a smile. That means when you see somebody, let me read the next lines also. Normally when you see others, be not stringent but delight in giving and discard all jealousy. To respect others' mind, discard all disputations and forever be equipped with patience. So when question was asked to Atisha by saying, when you see others, how should you react? Of course you are going to see many people, so how should you react? He says, when you see others, be straightforward, be honest. In case if somebody harms you, then how should I behave? Then he says, in response, don't use harsh speech. Now even if I don't respond, if they harm me, what should I do? And then you meditate on non-conceptual state and just give a smile back. Then you go to a minyam new again, during a selam like mix some gemuji get dead in the Pajoshita chase Mundua. The situation gets worse because if both sides flare up. But if one side, it happened with me also. Sometimes some people come without any reason, quite upset and angry, ready to fight, And sometimes I realize that they are very angry, whatever be the reason. I said, oh, sorry, I'm very busy right now, I'll see you later. They never come back. Because they don't remain angry 24 hours, Whatever be the reason for their anger, if you give them a little bit of time, then the anger goes down. They realize their mistake, they never come back. And sometimes I tell them, okay, please sit down, explain to me what you want to say. Then they also changes. So their tactics are there. I'm not saying we can always practice that. We also get angry immediately, The tabhi dua. And then Domtoma again says, all this you are teaching is wonderful, but these are very difficult practice. And then Atisha answered, this is difficult, that's why you collect merit. If it's easy, how can you collect merit? Because it's difficult. If you do it, then you collect merit. Then again Domtoma asked, how are you going to get that big merit? Because you collect merit because you know how to practice. In the face of such difficult situation, you are able to practice. Therefore, you are able to collect great merit. So you should behave just like you would do to your parents. In case of your parents, if there's a good relationship, then even if the parents are going to kill you, you will not use harsh speech or you will not, hit back. So even to those people who destroys dharma or temples or stupas, even to these people, don't develop hatred. Don't use harsh speech. The real Buddha's teaching is not a temple, not a stupa. It's inside each and every individual's mind. That nobody can destroy unless you are killed or something. And he clearly says here, even if your body is destroyed, Buddha's teaching cannot be destroyed like that. So in short, this chapter is saying that you should always pay attention to guard the mind of other people. Don't make them upset. If you have a friend which you like and love very much, then even if that friend is upset, saying nasty things, but you will try to make a joke, try to, offer him cup of tea. That ring lung he will lang do that. Karina siga jerwa, tavi jik chigrawas, or did not he chegures, or counter me, Samsung education bures. Be without flattery or rush for new friendship, but always be stable and firm. Did you hear that? This is talking about how you would associate with other people. So he is saying that don't rush for new friendship means there are some people who whenever they see some new person, they want to make friendship with them, go with them for a few days. After that, gone. Aksar karse, aksar shugu tarjo sigorwa, aksar shugu tarjo lagwe re yungs. So making this kind of pickle friendship with new people is like a flag made of paper. A flag made of paper with the slight blow of the wind, it will be torn apart. So similarly, don't just rush for friendship without flattery. And to look for that friendship, you flatter that person, But always be stable and firm. Stable and firm means take time, whether it is in terms of your relationship with your teacher or your relationship with your friends. Take time, be stable and firm. Give up despising others and remain with respect. When instructing others, have compassion and a benevolent mind. Give up despising others, looking down upon others. Whoever they are, even if that person is a beggar, or looks shabby or dirty, or uneducated, whoever they are, don't despise, don't look down, because you never know who that person is in the true sense of the term. And in ancient times, there are stories of great teachers coming in the guise of beggars. Even otherwise, the very reason we talk about getting enlightened is in terms of these mother sentient beings. When we talk about mother sentient beings, it includes all sentient beings. It is in relation to these mother sentient beings we are able to develop compassion, we are able to develop patience. So many of these good qualities we talk about is possible to be developed in relation to with other sentient beings, not with the rocks and trees. So therefore cherish these other sentient beings highly, and remain with respect. When instructing others, have compassion and benevolent mind. For example, if you are a teacher or even otherwise, if you are instructing others, then do it with wholeheartedness, with genuine compassion and concern for the well-being of that person, with a loving mind. But if you instruct others so that you are able to take advantage of that other person, you do that so that you become famous and great recognition, things like that, then it's like do the power. This is called, if you do that, then it's called the gourds becoming devils, the medicine becoming poison. The chöyin and the mean and yabuchik local fisho dangsuna, tili duga yamarwa. Tili ko tangbo ne kaya me lakshana, ko ke yamarwa. Dire. So see all these sentient beings as your mother sentient beings, and develop that compassion as if they are today fallen into a pit of fire. And among sentient beings, you see so many poor people, deprived, suffering from hunger, thirst, having no clothes to wear. So there are plenty of, areas among sentient beings, focusing on which you can develop compassion very easily. College, we have go to a mikuma to Singje. Gumani just right and all the pay. So through this kind of precise understanding of how sentient beings are suffering, you will be able to develop a kind of feeling which you cannot control, Yingje image. Try to develop that. For example, if your own daughter or son is today fallen into a pit of fire, how would you react to that? If you hear that your daughter or son is fallen into a pit of fire, immediately you will run. Forgetting about yourself, you will run to save the life of that daughter, that son. So with other sentient beings also, in the beginning, of course, you may not be able to develop such intense feeling, but at least you develop some kind of concern. Nyingje sabadachi, right? Karchena chasing and raji, tindel mai bachene. Because then, at such a situation, you will stop all so-called important activities. You will just run to save the life of that son and daughter. Right? So this topic is primarily talking about always, the essence of Dharma practice is always trying to benefit others, directly, indirectly. The more you try to benefit others, the more you will forget your worries. It's an interesting, thing, that the more you think about yourself, chik digmendo, nyin digmendo, sumimendo, himendo, ngamendo, khange kore yomare. Any simple gay mare kone gay, pegol nyerma le mare kone le. Many cases of people, becoming old when it's not time to becoming old. Wrinkles appear on the forehead when it's not time to develop wrinkles on the forehead. Die when it's not time to die. And most of this is because of your unhealthy state of mind. Unhealthy state of mind. Now today it is scientifically proved much of the even physical illnesses that we encounter are related to your thinking process, your mental attitude. Do not defame the Dharma, aspire that which you like, and through the 10 virtuous deeds strive to pass day and night. So Dharma here is something that is beneficial for you, not only to this life, but for many lives to come. Because Dharma has such a wonderful instruction. So therefore, if you don't understand it, just say, I don't understand it, I don't know. But without knowing, without thinking, say, Dharma practice is useless, Some people, they say Dharma practice is outdated, now we live in the modern age. And they even have no idea what is modern age, what is modernity. What is the meaning of modernity? Modernity is not having high-rise buildings, and in between these high-rise buildings there are nicely paved roads. On the nicely paved road, many cars are rushing. That is not the meaning of modernity. Modernity, in its true sense of the term, is actually like the teaching of the Buddha. Modernity means when there is equal respect to men and women, when there is respect to the environment, when recognition is given to people's performance, people's merit, not in terms of whether their parents are son, king or queen, not like that. These are the concepts outlined clearly under the title modernity. And people don't understand that. People think modernity means high-rise buildings. Because in those high-rise buildings, many people are suffering from loneliness, depression, and so forth. So therefore, from that point of view, if you think about the concepts of Buddhism, it's highly, highly advanced. Like, for example, today's talk of the town, globalization. People are talking about globalization if this is a big statement, big thinking. But globalization, we are talking only about human beings. It's not talking about all mother sentient beings. Even among sentient beings, globalization basically talking about business, marketing. Globalization. Buddha taught about taking care of all mother sentient beings. So therefore, with such precious teaching, if you just without knowing, if you say bad things, it's not good. This is beautiful, Aspire that which you like means, now when we talk about Dharma in general, there are so many religions, right? Christianity, Islam, so many things. So he says, aspire that which you like. Out of this many teachings, many dharmas, many religions, take that religion which you like. If you like Christianity or Islam or Hinduism, whichever you like, you take that. And what is important is take the essence of the dharma, undertake 10 deeds, which means reading the Holy Scripture, giving, charity to others and things like that. And this kind of practices are encouraged in all religious traditions. So through doing these good things, you should pass day and night. That's how you should lead your spiritual life. So basically saying, even though there are many religious systems, but the main obstructing factors in all this religious practice is grasping to self. Whichever religion you follow, if you think just about yourself, not about others, then there's a big obstruction to that religious practice. So therefore, whatever religious practice you are doing, make sure that your mind is not tainted, not polluted by attachment and hatred. It's interesting, he's saying this such a long time back in the 11th century. Atisha came in the 11th century. Because he repeatedly says there's many of the religious practitioners, their mind is full of attachment and hatred towards each other. So make sure that your mind is not tainted by attachment and hatred. And the reason people don't wholeheartedly do religious practices, there are 3 reasons. Few excuses people don't do religious practice. One excuse is, first of all, they will say that now I'm quite small, quite young, but when I grow up, then I'll do my practice. Right now I can't do. This is one excuse. And then gradually when you become adult, and then he says, right now I'm an adult, I'm still not old, and also not too young. So right now is the time to make money, to make wealth, and to fight with the enemy, to look after the friends and relatives. And when I become old, then my sons and cousins, when they're grown up, and then they will also look after me, and then I will choose then I will do I'll do dharma practice. This is how you think. And then finally you actually become old and decrepit, right? And when you really have not much capacity to do anything, then you again lament by saying, oh, now I'm really, really old. I wish I had done some practice when I'm younger. Now I encourage you young people, do dharma practice. And then they did it. That they never healed. That che hyomba namji chidang sene pupu seking sukisu ne langwe dusu se. And they go to the langdo ya langdo. Say ya langa suki se the kangba the lagwe higatsu ne langwe in the chagdo. Anything that's hard as gore, the yakumare gore. Throughout your life, if you come up with excuses, you will never get time to do dharma practice. And this is exactly what Kongtang Rinpoche said. Tamju chiju majung nishuchi, not being able to do dharma practice, 20 years passed. Chego samne nishuchi. I will do dharma practice, but never being able to do, another 20 years passed, 40 years passed. And then the next 20 years you say, majung se nishuchi. I could not do dharma practice, This is your empty biography. Biography of your empty life. 상이 지기 나니 지기 칼라사에 있는 장금도 탁탁탁탁. So the interesting, the good thing that we need to think is this spiritual practice is food for the mind. Food for the mind. Just as we give food 2-3 times to the body, similarly for the nourishment of the mind also we need to do these practices. Whether you call it Buddhist practice or not, but you need to continuously cultivate that healthy thinking. Replenish it, sustain it, nourish it. And the dinada kongi kapjon raw de khashi duda. SS dide dua. Mata meta ba kiching ma rea me gombar se parta surda se. So he says we don't meditate on impermanence even for a moment. We just look here, look there, remain distracted. There is a story of a Lama who asked his student, "Are you practicing Dharma?" He says, "Yes, sir, I am practicing Dharma." He says, "Don't tell lie. I saw you sleeping the whole night. And in the day I saw you getting distracted. So when do you find time to do Dharma practice?" Get distracted here, distracted there. And in that state of distraction, your whole life comes to an end. Redua. Kesa dedua. Metakbate komgogorwa. Magomba parta surda chikchi. Nibadi chembola mingu. Chungjung langus. Pamatamji dungnevala mingu. Chikumna ngusre. Jachembo Samladan, all sentient beings are your mother. So they are dying every day. If you read newspaper, you can see that. Every day. Thousands are dying every day. There we don't shed tears. And when you are one parent, the so-called parent of this life, that person dies, you cry. Michik shinangu. Mangbo shidu mengu. Pama shenta shidu mengu se. Samla chungdare se gore. Chikputiya tautu chichi cheba tela mengu war. Lenchik sheba tela ngu. Even in the case of this one person, of your relative or friend who is dying when during which you cry, chikputiya tautu chichi cheba tela mengu ta sapo sungu doa. And even this person, when he is dying and taking birth every day, you don't cry. Lenchik sheba tela ngu. Finally, when that actual death takes place, then you cry. Sidu ta ngone shine da robe sidu shine ha kurma ti kongla nima rere shindu shigi yore nima rere shindu chegi yore se ore ti ngugum doas rwa da shukchim bushum doa oda tinde soro mangoji doa tita we choba khala kurwa. So don't defame, don't say bad things towards any religious practitioner. Chilung na so bachi gongwai sambe cherso machung na te chowai khadedu. There are many processes of doing religious practice, so long as their mental attitude is correct. If they have an unmistaken mind, wish to help others, not to harm others, that's enough. That's the right demarcation of a good religious practitioner. So the most important practice is keep these teachings in mind. Give up yourself, don't talk too much about yourself. Cherish others, take care of others. Virtue as accumulated in 3 times be dedicated for the unsurpassing great enlightenment, and the merits be offered to sentient beings. Always make great prayers of the 7 limbs. Doing thus, both merit and wisdom will be accomplished. Both obscurations will also cease, and the actualized human life becomes meaningful. Thus one attains the unsurpassing enlightenment. So virtues accumulated in 3 times, past, present and future. Whatever good things you do, every time when you do a good thing, you dedicate it. May this good deed become a cause to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. If you do that, then it is really like depositing your money in a bank where there is interest. If you don't dedicate it, you do something good, then after a while you become angry, then that goodness that you have cultivated is destroyed. So dedicate it. Dedicate it. That's what he's saying. Dedicated for the unsurpassing great enlightenment means Buddhahood. And the merits be offered to all sentient beings. may they get benefit. Always make great prayers. Great prayers means focusing on the benefit of all sentient beings, not just yourself. Of the 7 limb practice, that means paying homage, making offerings, confessing your sins, rejoicing the good things done by yourself and others, and requesting the great teachers to turn the wheel of Dharma, requesting them not to pass away, and then dedication and things like that. These are Yanla Dimba Sewa Chansa Wada, Chujin Shabada, Jesu Yana Kuji Soba, Geva Jungsu Daki Chisawa, Tamje Zoba, Chanju Chiringo Seder. Doing thus, when you do your practice like this, then you will collect both merit and wisdom. That means you are able to develop love, loving kindness, bodhicitta on the one hand, and wisdom, realizing shunyata on the other hand. This will be accomplished. And if you are able to accomplish both merit and wisdom, then your 2 obscurations to nirvana and obscurations to enlightenment will cease. And if you are able to do that, in other words, if you are able to reduce negative emotion and also the imprints left by these negative emotions, then your life becomes meaningful. Your life as a human life becomes meaningful. And the actualized human life becomes meaningful. Thus, this is the process how one becomes enlightened. So this chapter is basically talking about how to collect merit, how to purify negative deeds, how to dedicate your virtuous deeds, how to confess negative deeds, and so forth. The wealth of faith. Now he is talking about the 7 wealth, spiritual wealth. The wealth of faith, number 1. Wealth of morality, number 2. The wealth of consideration for others, number 3. And feeling of shame, number 4. Wealth of hearing, number 5. Wealth of giving, number 6. And wealth of wisdom, 7. Are the 7 wealth. These aspects of wealth are the 7 inexhaustible treasure. Now look at this. If you develop this 7 kind of inner wealth, they will always give you a lot of benefit. Inexhaustible. That means if it is a gold mine, the more you exploit it, the more it will run out. With these inner qualities, the more you share, the more you get enriched. Right? For example, I have one watch here. If I give it to one of you, then I am without watch. But when I share my little bit of knowledge to you, I get enriched. Nothing is lost from me. There's the difference. Are the 7 inexhaustible treasures and should not be related to non-humans means, basically here is talking about those people who don't have the faith, who say bad things about these, then don't share it because they are not ready to receive this precious wealth. Or this Igdua. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When among many, watch your words. When among many, watch your words. When remaining alone, watch your mind. Now these 2 lines are taught by Atisha when Domdamba requested him, okay, now finally, please give me a profound practice which is really like the summary of all the teaching. Then he said, when among many, watch your word. When remaining alone, watch your mind. Because if you don't watch your word, you will continue to collect negative deeds. If you get distracted, this also becomes a cause for negative deeds. Right? So using harsh word or using talking too much will stir up negative emotions. And when the negative emotions are stirred up, then jealousy arises, hatred arises, anger arises. If you praise one by talking, other gets hurt. Ngala chibar chaye sedire da adije dala Now, for example, he says, not only the ordinary talking and gossiping, he says, like if somebody is like wholeheartedly meditating, gomja dediyona, and ditili chine kechembo hindu jorgajana dia diyo marasior. If somebody is wholeheartedly meditating, if you go near and recite prayer loudly, even that kind of use of word is not permitted, because you are disturbing others. Tamila kanji noba maji the parje maji go resegore. So then finally when Domdamba asks him that if I am alone, how do I practice? If I am alone, how do I practice? So to this he said, you go to a place of solitude and do the Dharma practice. When you are in a place of solitude, what is most important is you watch your mind. Physically you are isolated. Desa diri gal dena samlo thangla chamdene. Thomlo do de yorda. Yeg desa yeg de. Ngadu gen lage labnyo. My teacher used to say like that. When some of our schoolmates, like the present Kalyan Karmagilik, we are in the same school. So some of the senior, the monks in the Institute of the Buddhist dialectics, in the very initial stage, there's not much distraction, so people are quite devoted. So some of the senior students, they wanted to go to mountain, and they went to my teacher and said, we want to go to mountain and Sambachigins, go to retreat and practice. And Genla is a very pragmatic teacher. He scolded them by saying, what are you going to meditate in the mountain without proper study? What are you going to meditate? You may end up staying in the mountain thinking about what is happening in the plain area. The game like sung song, I say what thing do. They said, "Rigangla, there's some lot of time. Then you go to what? So you go to a place of solitude, and then there not only physical isolation but mental isolation. Analyze your mind. And the beauty of being in solitude is that nobody will say anything bad to you, and therefore there is no possibility to develop attachment, hatred, and so forth. For example, even there, if your mind is getting attracted to some physical object, then analyze that physical object. Look at the shape and color of that object, how long-lasting it is, how good it is, and then gradually, you will be able to develop your attachment towards that, and you will not find anything, just like a rainbow, right? Oh, dusre. So this ends the Bodhisattva Garland of Gem, composed by the Indian abbot Dibamkar Shirijana. That's the name of Atisha, Parajana Garbha. This is translated, the original translation from Sanskrit to Tibetan. This is translated, proofread and finalized by this Indian abbot himself. Abbot himself means Atisha himself, and the translator Bhikshu Sutim Gyalwa, Nakzolozawa Sutim Gyalwa, one very famous Tibetan translator who spent a long time in India, Bodh Gaya especially, and he was one of the main person who managed to invite Atisha to Tibet. Now the English translation. This unedited English translation is done by me, the stupid me, Geshe Lhakdor, at Shivesal in Ladakh, Garden of Peace, Leh, Ladakh, on 17 June 2003, as a preparation for His Holiness's teaching on this text. And His Holiness also taught Tsongkhapa's three principal aspects of the path from 1st to 4 July 2003. This translation is done primarily for my own practice, but also sincerely hope that this is of some benefit to few others. Odire. Sarva Mangalam. That is Sama. Kamani Sumchidu, Tivarchik is Yonatang, Mena Sarsum. So I played my role, but what is important is really try to, the Tibetans, especially those of you who can read this text, try to acquire that text and read the whole text. It's an amazing text. Yes?
Here said something that I don't understand. It said, should not be related to the non-humans.
Non-human beings means like spirits who may be against the Dharma teaching. You know, like for example, if somebody is really like very, very indisposed against, say, bodhicitta, then you should not say, oh, I received bodhicitta, I am practicing bodhicitta. You know, that will make the matter worse. So non-human beings or anybody, when they have no faith, don't talk about these precious teachings. And actually, you know, many of this, like this is also very, very precious teaching. Normally, probably in ancient Tibet, many of these are not taught so easily publicly. Many of the mind training teachings. halam sangwa soro da le lawo hie me ge chire do ta ting san tu la ta kawain sa sung yo re ko tu kin jurwa na te re ma do ge. So ancient times many of these teachings are kept a little bit secret because people may not be able to digest it, you see. So that's why sometimes just giving a short teaching, short explanation may not be very helpful. It's a little bit helpful but not much. We need a little bit longer time to explain things properly, because when you will have many doubts. You will start thinking, how in the world somebody will practice, like somebody can practice like this. It's almost talking about like becoming non-human being. Dosha pang, hedang pang, me serjela dosha hedang yore, di mewa kandeso. Some of the scientists, they say things like that. All these emotions are necessary. There's nothing called positive emotion, negative emotion. Based on that, they use the phrase fight and flight response. Fight and flight is possible because you have these emotions. So these emotions are necessary. If it is a fearful experience, then you, because of this development of fear, you fly or you run away. Right? Or if it is a situation where certain emotions came and you are directly in front of that the animal or somebody, then you that emotion helps you to fight. So these emotions are necessary. That's what they say. But in Buddhism, we say there are positive emotions, negative emotions. Negative emotions must be reduced. Now the scientific way of thinking is also changing. Now they don't talk so much about fight and flight response. They are talking about taking a little bit time, not to give quick response. Because they say if you remain peaceful and think a little bit, then the oxytocin, it's a substance which will calm your mind and give you clarity of thinking. And then that will help you what kind of counterforce you should take properly. Labdua. So things are changing. Many things are changing even in the scientific world. In the classical science, they were saying that when you grow older, your mind will also stop functioning. You will suffer from dementia. Now they have completely changed it. Now they are talking about neuroplasticity. That even when you grow old, but if you continue to do the training of the mind or the brain becomes supple and you can improve. So this is again in line with the Buddhist way of thinking. In Buddhism we say there is a difference between the body and the mind. The body, yes, there is a limit. However much training you give, there is a limit beyond which it will not go, because the basis on which you are giving the training is body. But in the mind, you can train the mind to limitless state until you become completely omniscient like a Buddha. In terms of our education, however much we learn, there is always room for improvement. Now in the body, even if you are the world's #1 gold medalist in long jump and still undergo some training, there will be little improvement, of course, but not so much so that you will say he's now so good that he's jumping from one mountain to another mountain. Similarly, like boiling water, you can heat it, 100 degrees centigrade. Still heat it, it will not become hotter, it will change into vapor. Langwal gyudugdua, sauchaya madua. Tinde mares, similar jongdate tinde mar, kaze jongdate na thame, komse jindu kunchin jundi tubs, kunji jaman shibe tuta sawala. Komsel jendu kunji jundu suna komna seru ndoye wa tilatene ene sanji koma toye yore sede dugu yore. So thank you.